no matter what member of the group we look at here, no matter who it is, every single one of them, every single one of you, have been bottle fed with warnings about going into the mountains. Many of you have ancestors that worked there, worked in the mines, but despite it being a dangerous work environment, they knew exactly the path to walk. They knew where to go. Now, decades later, those paths are still there, but very difficult to find, and indeed very dangerous for someone who probably has never been there, which is the majority of our group. Aside from the landscape being without any sign of population or any sign of human contact, the rocky paths made by thousands of miners' feet throughout the decades are treacherous and downright dangerous. They might have been fine when they were actually in use, but with modern technology providing means of transportation between Hawken and the mines, they've been let overgrown for years. Indeed, the area surrounding Hawken makes one wonder why anyone would ever establish a town there in the first place. But the worst part of this entire ordeal is that our group doesn't really have a map of the area. Some of them know the area. Not well, but they know what they're getting into. But most of them don't. So you're standing at the very cusp of the forest leading into the mines. You're all ready. It's early morning. You've packed what you needed or what you thought you needed. You said goodbye to the people that you needed to say goodbye to, just in case. What do you do?
Well, whatever I had thought earlier of this, now I can't feel anything else that this is a bad idea. We shouldn't have come here. Why would he stuff some kids away in mines? And I just feel grumpy, and the clothes that I had for this, they don't fit anymore. I've been keeping too much at home, and my tummy is kind of bulging out of the weather jacket that I used to fit in. And now I stand here and I just look out to this and I feel skeptical, chewing my lip. Well, are we still doing this?
I quickly check my bag, making sure the tent is all secured and neat, making sure the medical supplies I have brought are up to snuff, and I will simply nod quite grimly as I look into the distance, saying, "Yes, I reckon we best be doing this as soon as possible, isn't that right, Reverend?"
I can't think of anything else we should be doing right now. Everything points towards these mountains. We've got everything we need to start the exploration, and, well, remember, we're going to camp at the foot of them, make sure we get a good bead on where this light is coming from, and then we can head out towards it. And I don't... I hate to sound like some officer on the line, but now that we're making our way out here, I don't want to see any of us getting cold feet and turning back. I think there's an awful lot that's relying on us for being the only four prepared to do something about it. And the longer we prevaricate, the longer we wonder whether this is a worthwhile mission, the more chance there is of these children ending up in harm.
Who's having cold feet, I say, and I look back and I send a glare towards Karin, because he was chopsing at me the other day, just because of the ordeal by Christine's grave, and I start just walking forward in the direction that I think that we agreed that we are going.
Oh, I think this is one of the rare cases where I feel not only qualified but compelled to take the lead. In part because I am uniquely qualified among the group to handle the depths and the darkness that are coming up ahead of us. But also in part now because Officer Byrne called me out on it. And I'm not going to miss an opportunity to put him a little bit back in his place.
Well, my original idea was that we go to the what we understood as the backside of the hospital, or the place where the window would have led to, where he would have climbed out and start looking for traces there and see if anything from there could lead us on any path.
Yes, in that case, then I will have to rescind my previous need to out-masculine Officer Byrne. It's not too difficult to sit between 2 points and follow a straight line.
Alright. Well, most of you know how to find the backside of the hospital. That's not really a problem. And you make it there fairly easily because, well, it's not that overgrown. It's not that dangerous. It's pretty easy, despite the hospital being on a little bit of a ledge. So you do have to use quite a bit of your leg muscles to be able to stay somewhat standing up. But you make it there in a matter of 30 minutes. The hospital towers over you and casts a shadow over the entire group. You see there's a small forest path. You know that some people from Hawken like to go during the summer. The forest is rich on berries and different kinds of nuts, herbs that have especially been useful throughout the war, where food sometimes was scarce. But this is where you're standing right now, on the back of the hospital.
Well, I'm wiping the sweat off my forehead, and I'm standing there catching my breath and look around at the rest of the group. Well, let's see if we find anything useful. And then I just I just go for my flask. I turn away. I don't want anyone to see, and I have a sip for myself.
I smile a little to myself, taking in some of the natural environment we're in. After all, I do know a little bit about the natural world. Do I see any particular plants or berries that would be useful for either a snack or maybe an extra bit of medicine?
What do you have in natural world?
60%.
Okay, why don't you make a roll?
42 under 60.
Wonderful. You do indeed see this. There's actually quite a few of these plants growing around the hospital. You know that these herbs in particular were used by monks way back in the Middle Ages to as antibacterial dressings. And you can see that they're growing in froze around the hospital.
In that case, I'm going to take... I imagine I have a little pocket knife on me. And I'll just take a few quick samples saying, well, I mean, you never know, it's always good to have extra antiseptic. Isn't that what we always used to say when we were on those marches, Reverend?
Well, yes, there's nothing worse than a dirty wound. Absolutely, you know. Better to go over-prepared than under-prepared and all that.
Karen, so where do you reckon we should be heading from here then?
Well, I've had a plan, right? It's a straight shot up to the foot of the mountain, and from there, we can find our way in towards the mines. That won't be difficult. You've seen one rock face, you've seen all that nature has to offer. It's the in-between part I'm worried about. Not like you, soldiering types, I haven't done my fair share of hiking through the wilderness, through hostile land.
I kneel down and I start looking in the gravel or whatever is down here for any kind of footprints or broken branches or indications that someone has moved through the area.
Okay. I would like to make a spot hidden roll.
Let's see. That's 74 and I have 60. Can I just go ham and waste like use 14 luck points?
You can.
Bring it to 60 then. I will.
You can also make a reroll, but know that if you fail, it's gonna be not so good.
No, I'll start with this and go to the rerolls when I have to.
As you kneel down, it's a little bit difficult to see if there's any, if the broken branches nearby are just a part of nature, or if it's made by footsteps. But as you kneel down, you do see something colorful. Something that isn't a natural color. Behind a pile of branches. Can't really make out what it is.
As I'm kneeling down, I squint over at the thing that I see, and I turn over to Owen. Owen, there's something over there, is it not?
What is it? What is it?
I start brambling over to have a look.
As you walk over, you see there's a little shoelace sticking out from the pile of branches.
Seems we're lucky. I mean, this might be something. I fish it up. I try to examine it, see if it's...
Is it a child's shoelace, Bern?
It is colorful.
As you fish up the shoelace, a shoe follows. And it is indeed a child's shoe.
And despite wanting to feel that I'm lucky and that this is a good thing, I feel a shudder down my spine, and I can't control my hand as it goes to just grip the shoe very tightly, thinking how this would have been if it were one of my own.
Yeah. As you look at it, actually, you have a bit of a flashback. It's not long, but it's one of those flashbacks where you feel, where there's an item that makes you feel like you've held that item before. You know that this isn't your daughter's shoe, obviously, but you think back to the day where you were teaching your daughter how to tie her shoelaces. It was a warm summer day, and you remember it very vividly. There's something about the innocence of the shoe that really brings back fond but also melancholic memories of the past. Back when you felt like you actually had some sort of control over your life. Back when you felt like this was what life was supposed to be. It was back when you and your wife still were in a good relationship. Children were still young. You felt productive, needed. You felt loved. And you felt like you could give love. It seems like another world now.
And I just clamp up my jaw, tightening, and I find myself unable to say anything as I hold that shoe.
When you see what goes on, you see that all of a sudden Bern's old, wrinkled, angry face miles up a bit. It almost seems like he's about to cry. This is very odd. You've not seen exactly this side of Bern before.
It's good to know there's some actual human in him yet. But there are two reasons that I might not call attention to that now. One, that being a young British lad, I am well practiced in the art of masculinity, which means denying that emotions exist at all. And two, now does not seem like the time to call attention to something that Bern might feel insecure about or get defensive about if called out on. Third, Bern and I don't do so well talking about his children for, reasons. So the best he'll get out of me in this moment is a heavy swallow and a mental note to put that in the back of the book.
Meanwhile, finishing up cutting my little extra herbs, I sort of just look at the scene, not really catching any of this, and just walk up to Karen and say, "Well, alright then, I reckon we should be heading off then. What do you reckon? Straight north or northeast? Or?
This way, I say, and I take a step back to the side to let someone pass to start leading the way.
Oh, right, alright. Well, alright then, Karen, I guess you're the leader here? And I offer him a smile. Again, it's interesting because it occurs to me at this point that I haven't really interacted with Karen at all out of this group, and now I'm going to be off camping with him. I wonder if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not entirely sure. Again, the whole time I've often worried that Karen's not really wanted to do this, and why, that's totally his right, to be honest with you. I hope he's alright, I think to myself as I follow him.
That's a very well-founded fear, because I haven't wanted to get wrapped up in this for so many things. In many ways, this experience just mirrors that of the war. Wanting to do something else, getting pushed in one direction, and at a certain point it has turned into a kind of learned helplessness, maybe? That when fate starts pushing you in one direction, the worst thing you can do is fight it. Whether that means following it down into a mine or up the side of a mountain. But that's the undercurrent of it. The surface level bit is wanting to appear competent, wanting to fight back those rumors and urges and slanders that have followed the village, no thanks to Burn, since as long as I can remember. So given this opportunity, in finger quotes, to demonstrate competency and bravery, I shall do so. I'm assuming that once Burn points me at the trail, I can follow it without too much effort?
Yeah, there is a small forest trail. Yeah.
Then with my kit on my back and my father's shotgun in my hands, I will venture forth.
And I assume the rest of you follow?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. I'm increasingly of the opinion as we head deeper into the wilderness, as long-reaching as it might be, and as much as I'm no evangelist steered by visions or faith alone, the fact that we were fortunate enough to find this child's shoe when it could have been anywhere makes me tell myself that, and I'm hesitant to even think it, that God put us on this path. Or God put it there, not physically, there wasn't some great hand that reached down, but that we're on the right track. That there's some divine providence involved in what we're doing now. There has to be. I have a very troubled look on my face as I'm thinking this over. And I say very little, but I occasionally look at my companions, emboldened by the fact that they seem committed to marching deeper into the mountains.
The weather in Hagen has never been known to be great. Well, it is a part of the northern parts of the UK. It's not exactly where you go to see the sun a lot, and this doesn't make it any easier that the forest is so dense and thick. The more you move into it, that the trees above you almost cover the rays of the sun. Sometimes it even feels like it's night as you're walking in there. And the only good thing about the forest being so thick is that you can't really feel that it now starts to rain. A lot. And it doesn't seem to be stopping. It's one of those days where you look up at the sky and you think, this is not just going to be over in 30 minutes. This is going to be an all-day rain thing. It makes the ground even more slippery. It makes jumping over fallen trees even harder. And the further you move into this forest, the more dense it becomes. It's almost like the forest is trying to hinder you. It's very odd. But move forward you do. And you walk. And you walk, and you walk, and you walk. For what seems like hours.
I certainly, along the way, will have tried to make some probably awkward conversation with Karen. I reckon this is probably not what you were expecting, leaving a mine and then now cross-trekking through the wilderness.
I just kind of smirk a bit. Well, you know, the last 4 or 5 years have been full of things I didn't expect. What's one more? And I kind of look up into the rain.
Take a moment to step over a log as I say, "True, well, here's hoping that maybe we're coming to the end of all this business, and then, I don't know, if we can, well, maybe settle down to some things that are a bit more normal. I imagine you've got some plans."
I've stopped making plans. He kind of shakes his head. I didn't plan to end up in a mine. I didn't plan to end up on a forest trail. And in both cases, the universe just decided it had something else in mind.
Well, I don't know about that. I personally reckon, even though it doesn't seem it, God has a plan for us all. It's just hard to see what it is sometimes.
Oh, is that it? Yes, that's the difference between you, Owen, and me. As you look at all of this, and you say, the universe out there has a plan for us. God is up there, and he's putting this all into motion. And I look up there and say, the universe is just random nothing. There is no plan. Things just happen and push you along. Oh yeah, we're both out here because of some outside force pushing us along. I don't know that God has anything to do with it.
Well, I'll admit I'm not always too clear at myself, but I don't know. Sometimes nature itself, there's things in it that a little too perfect to be completely random. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've read a little Darwin. Have you heard of him? Evolution and all that? It's quite interesting, actually. I had a book on it.
I can't say that I had. Wasn't a lot of time for reading in the camp.
I look a little embarrassed, saying, yes, of course. Well, you should give it a look. It's an interesting theory. I think there's a lot to it. Some people, admittedly, are a little critical of him, especially some religious people. I can see why, but no, I think there's something to it. The natural world, things have a way of working that makes sense. Most of the time. Granted, strange rats aren't part of that logic.
Nothing in that book that'll explain the rats or the asylum?
No, but, well, I guess we're going to be on our own on that one. To be fair, I often wonder if it's not better that sometimes we don't know things. I think everyone wants to know everything, and I do too sometimes, but I don't know, maybe sometimes there are things that you don't really need to know to actually be happy. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Look, you know, your book, front to cover, doesn't do us any good in the situation. Owen has his favorite book, knows it cover to cover, doesn't do us any good in the situation. Whole lot of knowing between the four of us, and so far it's just the bumbling and the doing that has gotten us anywhere.
I reckon it's going to get us somewhere soon. And I give him a firm nod and a smile. I don't want to feel that I'm dismissing what he's saying. If anything, I'd like to give him some hope. I feel a bit upset hearing him at his age say things like I have no plans for anything. But anyway, I just nod for now and begin focusing once again on the wood and the forest and the trail.
Baron and Owen, you are kind of just minding your own business as you walk. Maybe you exchange a couple of words, but it's not much. You both have things on your mind. You both have, well, quite a bit to lose. And for you, Bern, that shoe, the vision of that just can't leave your mind. Oh, and you keep thinking about Esther. You keep thinking about how she must be feeling. Does she think that you're now back at war, since you're gonna be gone for a couple of days? Will she even know that you've been gone? You have no idea at this point. Bern, as you are the last one in the walking order, you can see the whole group pretty clearly. And you're keeping a little bit distance from them all, just so you can have a little bit of space to think. You're moving through this kind of mushy, kind of foresty, decomposing leaf underground beneath you. And sometimes your feet sink in, sometimes you have to pull them out again. But it's not that hard. It's not a marsh. It's not like you are stuck. So far, it's been alright. But as you take, or at least try to take the next step with your right foot, suddenly it is stuck. Your first reaction is to think, well, this is just, because it's raining, the ground is soft. But no. No, there's something grabbing your ankle. And it's not letting go.
I start pulling at my leg. What's going on? I look around.
The rest of the group, you hear this too.
Did you get your foot caught in a rabbit hole or something, Bern?
I swing around with my rifle in hand, trying to look at what I've gotten myself stuck in.
Your foot is covered in mud. You can't really see what it is.
This seems to be stuck in something. I hold out the rifle for you to take, Owen, so I can kneel down and try to use my hands to get it out.
Don't worry about it, lads. You hold on to the rifle. I'll get down. I'm useless with a gun, so I don't particularly want to be the person holding it. So I'll get down, one knee, and examine what's going on.
As you get down, you not only see that Bern's foot is stuck, but something is pulling it down. Bern, you obviously feel this too. This does not feel normal. But you can't really see anything.
Lads, there's something down here that's got hold of Bern's foot. I think you might all need to help.
I frown and quickly make my way over, trying to assess the situation and then offer Bern a bit of a hand, saying, well, all right, I guess we can try pulling you out. What are you actually stuck on, Bern?
That doesn't matter. You can't see it. It's underground. Everyone just get hold of his leg and pull it up.
I'm thinking here, and I hold the rifle in one hand and I take Richard's hand in the other.
I begin trying to help him, and I look to Karen and say, Karen, I think this is your moment. You're a bit bigger than me.
Even as Richard is positioning himself to start helping Bern, Carmen's just going to shove the shotgun into his arms, and then, now with both hands free, bring his hands up under Bern's armpits and just start pulling backwards away from whatever this is that has him.
Bern, you look down, and now you see exactly what's grabbing a hold of you. It's a hand. It's a hand sticking up from the ground. A white, bony, veiny hand. Full of symbols. Symbols you've seen before. Yeah, it was symbols that person in the psychiatric hospital had all over his upper body. Not only that, the arm is now not only gripping your ankle, it's gripping your leg, it's gripping the under part of your leg. It's making its way up to your knee. And as you're being pulled down more and more violently, a face appears from the mud. It's the face of that man again. He opens his eyes, There is no eyes in his sockets, it's just holes. And he opens his mouth and takes a deep breath and says, "They hear you. They hear you. Don't go. The mountains. They hear you. Stay."
And I feel I hear this somehow over what I perceive as my own screaming, shouting. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm absolutely terrified about what I'm seeing.
As I'm trying to help pull him out of this mess, I would look down. What do I see?
Nothing. You see a footstock, but you do feel someone tugging at him.
I'm confused, but again, I don't see anything alarming, so I will just keep pulling along with Aaron and saying, "It's alright, Mr. Bird, it's alright, we've got you."
Get away from my foot. Get away from my foot. I start trying to stomp and pull and I bring down the stock of the shotgun, trying to shove him away and punch and beat at him.
You all see this. It's like Bern is seeing something you obviously don't. Because he's trying to attack whatever is pulling him down.
And I can't see this from my position with one knee on the ground.
No one can see anything but Bern.
Okay, I'm gonna try and grab Bern around the waist and pull him backwards. I'm not the strongest, but with everyone else helping, hopefully it will, we'll be able to manage it. Shall I make a strength roll?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna say that you all help. And yeah, why don't you all make a strength roll?
I roll a 5.
That is great, because I roll 94 over 80.
And I roll 74 over 45.
Regardless, Owen by himself is actually able to pull Bern right out of that situation. You pull with all of the strength you have in your body. You are even surprised by yourself and what you're capable of doing. And Owen and Bern fly back and both land on their backs on the ground. And that hole just seemed to disappear on itself. Well, it just kind of falls back on itself.
I throw the shotgun to the side and I just fumble for my hip flask to get some strong in me. We have to be quiet, lads. They can hear us, the mountains.
Bern, why don't you make a sanity roll?
Alright. I roll a 9 under 57.
Okay. Well, despite this being completely out of the ordinary and just mind-boggling, you are able to somehow mentally protect yourself from what just happened. You only lose 1 sanity point from this.
And I clunk down the whiskey that I have in my hip flask, and then I realize that I'm almost on top of Owen. I try to squirm my way to the side. Thank you. I'm sorry. I thought I saw something.
I get myself up off the ground, having fallen a little myself, getting burned to safety, and I just sort of try and clean some of the mud off, and I say, It's all right, Bern, we got you out, and again, this sort of thing happens up here, so it's all fine. Are you all right? Are you hurt?
I am. I think I am fine. I start to feel my leg, and I try to stand up to see if I haven't hurt myself.
It doesn't seem like you're hurt. You're not in pain.
Look, Bern, whatever's happening here, look, we're going to be there for each other. I put my hands on his shoulders. try and look him in the eye. If he's prepared to look straight and not just eyes darting around in a panic.
I'm a bit evasive at first, turning my head down.
Look, we have to be prepared that there's going to be some strange and, dare I say it, terrifying things up here. We need to accept that we've already encountered some unexplainable things. The rats, the situation with Dina, there's a lot. So, just tell us, what exactly happened? Is there anything we can learn from what just happened to you?
You're right. You're right, Owen. Yes, we have seen things, and this goes in the line of those things. I saw the man from the hospital, the psychiatric hospital. It was like when my leg came up, his hands came along, and then his face. He stared at me, straight at me, Owen. You can laugh if you want, but he had no eyes in his eye sockets, and he told me the same thing as in the hospital, that the mountains, they'll hear us. That's what he said.
I'm not going to laugh at you. I fully believe that that's what you experienced. In some way or other. Listen, all we can do is keep moving forward.
I look up and look a bit embarrassed at Karen.
Not wanting to elongate the scenario, I just nod to Karen and say, "Alright then, let's get going. Maybe in another hour or so we can have a break. That might be a good idea, do you reckon, Reverend?"
I suggest we march on for as long as we can before we have a break. Let's take advantage of the light.
I kind of look a little sheepish and just nod.
I mean, Carwyn knows this area far better than we do, and, some of us have lived here all our lives, but for as long as the ground, at least to my mind, as long as the ground isn't treacherous, as long as it doesn't look like rain is going to set in or anything like that, it's my view that we just keep going until we have to stop and get our bearings, have something to eat, get some rest. But Carwyn, you're the scout in this case. Tell us, what should we be doing?
This is more pressure than I was prepared to take on. But in order of crises 1, I will politely ignore Burns' ramblings. If it had happened to Richard or Owen, I would chalk it up to war stuff. In Burns' case, I'm more than willing to believe this has to do with his choice of breakfast foods, liquid form, than it does with anything that actually came up out of the ground at him. As for the second piece, I'm going to lead the group on with confidence that may or may not be earned. I think the group might be overselling my navigation abilities, but I'm not going to let them know that until it becomes a problem. So I will retrieve my firearm from Richard, give the heartiest lad nod that I can, and head back up the trail. No, you're right, Reverend. It's critical that we get as far as we can before the night comes in and it becomes even more dangerous to walk the trails. I'll give Byrne a look, not asking aloud if he's ready to continue, but as soon as he indicates that it is safe to proceed, then I'm ready to continue our hike.
I'll just give you a nod. I look tired, but I don't want to give up my position or show any kind of weakness either. This is still very important to me. And as I shoulder my backpack again, I think of the shoe that I have now packed in it, and I just bite down and I motion for Owen to again go ahead of me. I still have our back.
I nod and I keep going.
As you continue the foresty path, it opens up a little bit more. And the ground also becomes a little more rocky. It's almost as if you're approaching another kind of environment, that of mountains. And you can see them in the background. You have all been able to do that all the time, but they're getting closer and closer. This means you're almost out of the woods.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Role-Playing, where we play the campaign The Whispers of the Mountains for Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. The Whispers of the Mountains was written by Clara Herbal, who was also our keeper. We were joined by Aaron Hammonds from Queen's Court Games, and our dear friend Matthew Dawkins. The music is from the Cthulhu, Nyarlathotep, Jog-Sothoth, Shub-Niggurath, and Asathoth compilations by our friends at Cryochamber, and the Paleo Wolf album Genesis. Check them all out at cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for more music for your gaming table. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon: Martin Heuschober, Nastasia Raulerson, Simon Cooper, David, Julia, Camilla, Ludwig Manford, Bob Lange, Julián, and Cameron for their generous support. And we would of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to bonus campaigns for Cult of the Lost and Coriolis there, as well as get early and raw access to all of our recordings. You can also hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening. And remember, that is not dead which can eternal lie, and with strange eons, even death may die.